We are STEM scholars, and we're here to teach you about the world. Today you're going to follow me for a day in the laboratory to learn more about algae. Smells like science. So here we are in my laboratory, and we're going to learn a little bit more about algae. Now currently, I work with green algae, and what I'm trying to do is use them for hydrogen production, for biofuels. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with algae, and you'll learn more about that later. Now you might think, how are algae relevant in my life? That's a good question. Have you ever seen a pond covered in scum? Have you ever gone to the ocean and you've heard about a red tide? These are some things that are negative that you might associate with algae, but actually they occur in many other aspects of your lives as well. So there are a couple things about algae that you might not think of that impact your daily life, but they definitely do. Look around at the plants around you. What an absolutely gorgeous day outside. Look at the plants. Here's another plant. What do these two things have in common? On the right, you might recognize this is a cactus. On the left, you might not realize that what this glass flask contains is alive too. Now what's in here is green algae. There are many similarities between algae and plants. Both algae and plants carry out photosynthesis and store starch and sugars as fuel. Another way that algae relates to your daily lives is through fossil fuels. Now you might be wondering, how are algae and fossil fuels related? Well, one common misconception about fossil fuels is that they were formed by animals. In fact, coal and other solid fossil fuels were formed by ancient land plants, while oil and other such substances were formed by algae that settled to the bottom of the ocean and were then compressed. Did you know that the pigment that's contained in plants and algae that gives them their green color, called chlorophyll, is able to fluoresce red under black light? Let's check it out. Here I've isolated some chlorophyll. You can see it's a very green color when I hold it up to the light. Maybe even better when I hold it up to that light. Now let's take it back into the dark room where we can view it under black light. This is chlorophyll under a black light. Look how red it glows. Algae and other photosynthetic microbes make up a very diverse group, and you can see this just between the difference of this single-celled microorganism, which looks, fairly opaque, and comparing it to this multicellular organism, in which you can see all the different clumps and globs. And that just shows one different way that algae can be diverse. They occupy very different environments, and they live in the soil and in the ocean all over the world. This photo shows many of the diverse kinds of algae. So why would I want to study algae, you ask? Well, for me, I see a variety of different uses for the organisms, including the production of food, fuel, nutritional products, value-added products such as dyes, and other industrial chemicals. Now, you see how thick this is. You can't see through it at all. It doesn't take very long for algae to grow to be that thick. In a few days, it will go from being as clear as this, with very small tiny particles in it, into something that looks like this, where you can not see through it and it will not transmit light. In addition to being fast growers, algae also have the benefit of taking up limited space, meaning they won't take up acres and acres of land in order to provide the products we need. They can be grown in photobioreactors or in raceways that take up a small fraction of the space that would be needed to produce the same biomass from plants. Also, algae carry the benefit of being able to use seawater. Because some of them arise from aquatic and marine environments, it's very common that they have adapted to seawater, whereas land plants are not used to this and will die. Well, that's all I have to say today. I hope you've learned a fair bit about algae, and you care to do your own research in the future. Thanks for watching.